So I just want to tell you that there is so much more possible than what meets the eye. And how I came to my work, and I should have started with this, but how I came to this work as a miraculous healer is that when I was a young girl, I was exposed to the atomic bomb. And I became very, very ill. And I didn't become ill right away. It was slow moving. And by the time I was 24, I was terminal. And it had gone undiagnosed because we didn't know about the exposure. We were on vacation in the Arizona, Nevada, New Mexico deserts when they were testing the bomb. And so it was just eating away at my insides. So my outsides look beautiful, and my insides look like a Hiroshima survivor. And so when they took the first part of me out, the doctors were just in shock. They were just like, oh my God, you have days to live. And they did all kinds of really emergency drastic stuff because I was pregnant with my third child at 24 with terminal cancer. So I had 2 surgeries. I was pregnant with him, and then I just wanted to get to the birth. I just wanted to give birth to him. I wanted to make sure that my body stayed alive to give birth to my son. So he's my little savior in a way. He made me like really fight for it. I fought for my life, you know. And there was a point about a year into this illness where I was 96 pounds, and I'm 5'6", so 96 pounds is like bones, you know, with a little bit of skin holding me together. And I fell on the floor. I just collapsed, and I said, oh my God, I'm dying right here. And I laid on the floor for a long time. And I thought, no, I'm not ready to go. And so my strong faith was like, I was just like, God, I'm not ready to go. I feel like there's something more for me here. And at that moment, as a very young mother, I said, I want to stay around at least to see my children graduate from high school, and then at least to see them get married, and at least to see grandchildren. And I did this kind of bargaining with God, like, please, I need to stay. I can't go now. This is the wrong time. And somehow, after a few hours of laying on the floor by myself in my house, I managed to crawl into the kitchen, and I had a little bit of sustenance, and I did a lot of praying, and I got quite a bit better. I was able to start eating. I hadn't eaten in weeks. The illness had affected my ability. It was in my here. It affected my ability to eat, and I just started just eating. And so I put on 50 pounds in 6 months, which was good because I needed it. I did 17 surgeries and 10 years of radiation. Now, that was not my Garden of Eden. I asked God to survive. I forgot to put in the recipe that I want Garden of Eden. I just forgot. And so I survived. I spent 2.5 years of my life. If you calculate all the days in the hospital, I was 2.5 years in the hospital. On IVs, on oxygen, on, you know, a couple times I had like transfusions, and it wasn't a picnic. So 6 years ago, it dawned on me that I wasn't in my Garden of Eden. I was surviving, but I was in pain. I was having to have surgeries every couple of years. I was on medications I didn't want to be on. I was not living my happy life. You know, I was surviving. And I had survived for like 20 years now at that point, and I wasn't feeling it. You know, I was like, okay, but this isn't a great life. So I went into my own garden. I just have a little prayer garden out the front door of my house. And I just said, I'm just going like Buddha. I'm just going to be like Buddha. I just know there's something better for me here. So every day I went into my garden and I chanted. And that was what I was talking about. Gratitude raises your energy. But my way of raising my energy was chanting. So I'd spend like half an hour chanting. I had lived in India before, and I really had the chanting down. And that was like chanting to the God of love, the goddess of love. And so I'd get my energy like really blissed out. And I was like, woo, this is really good. And then I'd just sit there and I'd just ask God to show me what I needed to do next. And I'd get these great downloads about, oh my God, how are cells regenerated? God was like sending me pictures of how to fix myself, you know? And so after 2 weeks only, so for like 14 days in the garden, I emerged from the garden without pain. Now, this is huge because if you knew me back then, my friends often picked me up off the floor and brought me to the emergency room because I would pass out from the pain. I would be in so much pain for so long that I would just collapse, and it was a routine thing. The emergency room people knew me. They gave me 5 shots of morphine when I got in there within a half an hour. They had loaded me up with everything they could, wrapped me up in hot blankets, and they'd all come and console me. They go, "Oh, I'm so sorry, sweetheart, we love you. You know, you're gonna be okay," you know, and they just like drug me to oblivion, and then I'd leave the emergency room the next day to carry on. So to emerge 2 weeks only of meditating and to emerge myself from the garden with zero pain was an absolute miracle for me. And in those preceding weeks, I managed to actually cure myself of asthma. I had been hit by a car walking in the neighborhood a few years, like 10 years ago, and they said I would never walk normal, and I bet none of you even know this in here, but I was broken all the way down my right side. I was a long-distance runner in high school, and I started running. I actually regenerated the body well enough to not just have trouble, they said I'd have trouble standing, that I should use a 3-pronged cane, and that I was permanently disabled. So I got the get out of jail card. I've got the blue card because they really wrote me off. They said, "You're never gonna walk again, not normal. You're never gonna dance, and you're never gonna run." So I had spent some time in a wheelchair, and I'm like, forget this. And I was up on 2 canes. And I was out on the trails with canes, you know, like walking around the Civic Center Park and whatever. I was not gonna surrender. But this was an absolute miracle. Last summer, I was running 30 miles a week. You know, just from you're never gonna walk again, you're never gonna dance again, get used to, you know, I just don't believe that. And that's how I got to where I am now, which is teaching about miraculous healings. And all the things that I teach are things that I've done on myself. So I'm the grand experiment. I am my own science experiment. I'm like, oh, I wonder if that'll work. Oh, I'm gonna tweet that. So that's how I came to the work. And then, of course, there's always that there's always that element of money that if you are in the hospital and then you have to recover, then whatever you've built up goes bye-bye, and so you don't have it again, and you have to keep generating. So I wanted a way to generate wealth effortlessly, in grace and ease, easily. Just, you know, turn on my magnets and let them roar. And so that is actually what I've accomplished, and I have happy to report that things are very good in my financial world. And that's what I want to share with you, is that, you know, you can reprogram your DNA. She doesn't need to reprogram anything. She's just perfect the way she is. So you can reprogram your DNA. You can get better. I mean, if you have an illness, listen, it's not the end of the world. You can get better. You can get better. If you have an emotional illness, if you have a love illness, if you have a spiritual illness, you can get better. A lot of times people don't realize that problems in their money space is a spiritual illness. It's a spiritual illness. So we gotta actually treat the illness. And it's not really treating, it's actually like bringing it back up to where it could be, where the possibility was. And you know, I'm gonna say one more thing. We're gonna take a little short break. I know people can get out. This is our room. So if you guys wanna be out there and cool off a little, feel free to do that. Or maybe I'm just warm, I don't know. I'm very warm here, so. I don't know. Ask Tommy if that's okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I actually think it's nice and cool out there now. I can feel a little bit. Okay, what was I saying? Who remembers what I just said? I wanted to tell you something else. Just before about to take a break, I was going to say another thing.
Your bank account.
Generating wealth
Effortlessly, easily. Spiritual illness, thank you, that's what it is. And so we really need to look at what's going on in our spiritual body. And the thing I love about the work that I do is, you know, first of all, I have so many doctors that come to me for healings because they know that Western medicine is limited. There's about 25% that they understand, and then it's a guessing game. But with the miraculous healing work that we do, we get to all points. We get to the spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical. And we really can do a much, much deeper evaluation on what's up. And I don't evaluate and leave people alone. We fix everything we find. And so people get better. And their money life gets better, their love life gets better, their health gets better. It all gets better all at once. So.